started training with Mr. Weber in October of 1992. I remember walking up the stairs. Our school at the time was upstairs. The hallway was lined with shoes, so I took my shoes off and walked in, and his desk was really close to the front door, so he walked up, immediately shook my hand, big smile on his face, very pleasant, very welcoming. And he looked truly pleased to see me there, to come watch classes. So he already knew I had trained before. He was really good at sizing people up. So I guess first clue was I took my shoes off, and most people that have trained before know how to do that and know that you don't walk into a school with your shoes on, especially a Japanese school. And the other part was he was always really good at sizing people up. He was a cop in South Carolina, so he was very good at being able to tell a lot about a person just by meeting them. Always was. So I told him about my background, previous training. You know, he's like, fine, have a seat. And he proceeded to teach the lesson of the day. And I remember the lesson at the time, most people watching it would have been bored because it was a lesson, I believe, on the Hamni walk. And he was expanding on it and going off on some tangents like he's prone to do, which are good tangents. And but I remember thinking, well, wow, he's not really trying to impress me at all, is he? He's just kind of doing stance work. And that in itself impressed me, because he wasn't worried about trying to just put a show on. He never did that. And I do the same thing. No matter what the lesson of the day is, I don't care how many people are watching. A bus off the street could have walked in with a perspective of 100 students, and he would not have put on any different lesson than he would have originally if it was just his students there. So that was impression number one. And I knew immediately that I wanted to train with this gentleman. It was just so many things. He had a laser focus about him. He had a discipline. He had, he stepped on the mat. He commanded the mats. And I wanted that. So I told him I loved the training. And after about 20 minutes, I want to sign up. And I told him I was going to a wedding in a week and I would be back. And I'm sure he, was thinking, yeah, sure you are. I think the same thing. If I had $1 for every time a prospective student told me they'll be back to sign up in a week or in 2 weeks or in a month, again, you're nice about it. Maybe you follow-up phone call, but most of the time, 90% of the time, you don't see them again. And I'm sure he was thinking the same thing about me. So anyways, I went to the wedding, came back, and sure enough, it was a Monday again, and I signed up, and I started training. That's 28 years later, here I am. Training with him was intense. He was the senior instructor and student at the time of the Aikido Association we were part of. And at that time, I believe he had just about as many years training as I have right now when I met him. He was a Yandan. He had just gotten his Yandan in South Carolina prior to moving here. And he had this thing about him where you knew you couldn't get away with anything. You knew that you had to be honest with your training. And I couldn't say that out loud at the time, after all these years and being on the other side of the coin right now. He just, he always had a saying, the mats don't lie. And it was a profound statement for me when he first said it. I don't know why, it just impressed me. And he's expanded on it, much deeper in the years I've known him, and it's in his new book he just put out. But the mats don't lie, and really for me, that's the epitome of what martial arts are about. It is a kind of, therapy, if you will, that you can't get anywhere else. And I can tell you for sure, I would not be the same person without that training all these years. And so what does that mean? The mats don't lie. We all have insecurities. We all have a range of emotions that we have, whether it's fear, whether it's sadness, disappointment, stress, some kind of stress factor that is affecting us in our lives that could maybe change our psyche and we're not aware of. Just pick any emotion, range of emotion, or what have you. That's what gets magnified when you're on the mats. So the whole thing where he says the mats don't lie is that you have to be honest with yourself in your training when you're on these mats. If you're not good at something and you haven't worked on it, the mats will tell you. If you're afraid of something and you give in to fear, that will certainly come out on the mats. And conquering those fears for me especially was a big one, It changed me profoundly. If you are a jerk and you like hurting people, that will come out on the mats, and you won't last long at Mr. Weber's school if you're one of those. If you take things as a joke all the time and don't really look inward and force yourself to be serious about something, the mats will tell you that. But fear is the big one. And you want, those of you wanting to train and you have any kind of fear you want to conquer, the martial arts will do that for you if you treat it honestly and you're honest with yourself. And that goes back to the whole "the mats don't lie" concept. So he was always big on that. I remember one time being bad at my back roll. It was a left side back roll. And that was a weird thing for me because I'm left-handed. One time during class, he had me out there in the middle of class. So we were doing our falls and rolls, because in class you do your warm-up, you do your falls and rolls, and then class starts. That's kind of typical. And I remember doing the back roll, and I was running into people, because he would always have us roll in a tight line. He never had these spacing out. He never gave us a lot of space. You had to roll in your lane. He forced that on you. And I remember running into people on my back roll. And no matter what I did, it was a brain block. There was something about it that just didn't register in my brain and subsequently in my body. Anyways, he put me out there in the middle of the mats, and I believe it felt like an eternity, but I think it was about 10 minutes or so. But 10 minutes is a long time when the whole class is focused on you and he's focused on you. And he would get me out there. Okay, no, step this way. No, drop your weight immediately. No, don't turn your shoulders too soon. Make sure your ears tucked to your shoulders. Make sure your arms are coming over your opposite shoulders. And there was tons of details. And every time I did something wrong, he stopped me. Do it again. Do it again. I think I must have back rolled 50 or 60 times in front of the class. But you know what? My back roll problems were fixed. I never really did another bad back roll after that class. And at the time, the mats don't lie, right? I was going through a range of emotions. Embarrassment. I was angry because he was calling me out like this. We have a vanity about us sometimes, an ego. And that's the other thing the mats will crush very quickly, is your ego. And that was a turning point for me, I think, with him. And he just didn't take no for an answer. You were going to fix that problem, you're going to fix it right now. And I did. And that was one of my vivid memories of him in my training. There's tons of them. There's thousands of them, of course. But that one and the other one was, the very first class, he put me in front of the mirror and he taught me the jigatai, which is a stance, a horse stance, and our straight punch, traditional Shotokan straight punch. And he had me out there and he says, okay, he walked me through it. He had me do it a few times. He said, okay, keep practicing that and I will come back in a minute and we'll keep going. And he looked at me and he said, just so you know where I'm coming from, I should be able to put you in front of this mirror, walk away for a couple weeks, come back, and you should still be there doing your one-hand punch with cobwebs hanging all over you. And I looked at him and I smiled. And I was like, yep, I made the right choice, because that's what you have to be as an instructor. That's the mentality you have to have as a martial artist and a person in life, is that no matter how mundane you might think it was, or basic, or whatever the case may be, your mentality should be there that I'm not going to do anything else. I'm not going to lose my focus. I'm going to do this task right now, and I'm going to do it the best I can. And that was what he was trying to instill in me. And I got it right away. And we clicked right away. And I used that same line, by the way. I stole it from him, the whole cobweb thing with my students. And I can tell right away who are the ones that are going to stick to the training and who isn't. That's my litmus test for people. That's how profound that first lesson was for me. And that's how it was moving forward with him. It was a series of moments like that. It wasn't just that I learned how to do a great armbar or a wheel throw, or I knew how to fly across the mats and roll out of it. That was all part of it. That was all fluff, though. The deeper stuff, the more meaningful stuff, were things like that. The mats don't lie.